Hello everybody, my name is Max.
And mine is Joey.
And today we are here with the first episode of Grandpa Stories. Grandpa Stories was inspired by our three grandpas, who always seem to have an endless stream of comedic and interesting stories from their past.
This episode we will be talking to my grandpa, Dr. Kiczenski. Dr. Kiczenski has lived all across the country, was given the opportunity to go pro in baseball, and eventually decided to become a dentist.
Throughout this podcast, we will dive into Dr. Kiczenski's past, learning more about his early life, and of course, hearing all those iconic, hilarious grandpa stories.
Now to kick off the show, how are you doing today, Dr. Kiczenski?
Well, right now I'm laughing. I'm chuckling to myself, listening to you guys talk. So how am I doing? I've been reading my Western books. I've just got a whole pile of them sitting here waiting for us to have a little talk. So what would you like to know about first?
To start off, could we just hear a bit about your early life and some of your hobbies as a younger kid?
Okay. We had a very small house in Detroit, Michigan, near River Rouge Park. It was like the west side of Detroit, and we had a small home. And I remember the neighborhood, and when I was like this, I lived there until I was 12 years old. And I remember how the neighborhood started with the roads were they were dirt, rocks, and oil on top of the road that was in front of our house. So it was kind of out in the boondocks. And then they paved the road and started building across the street from us. And what would happen is there was three guys in the neighborhood that were my buddies, and the four of us just did stuff all the time. One of the main things we did, we were playing sports for as long as I can remember. And it would depend on whether there were four of us, three of us, or two of us. We had all sorts of little games that we would play. And usually they had to do around baseball or balls or something. I know when there were four of us, we used to play a game called Over the Line. You ever heard of that? It's a baseball game.
I don't think I have.
Okay. Yeah, the field's divided in half. You got home plate to second base. We used just the left side of the field that we put together. It wasn't a real baseball field. And there'd be two people on a team, and we would pitch underhand, and you'd hit the ball. And if the guy playing the infield part caught the ground ball, you were out. If the guy in the field caught a fly ball, you were out. So you just kind of kept track of the score that way, switching back and forth, and that was fun. Now, if you had only three guys, it was a little different. It was more difficult to do stuff. So what we would do is we would play pickle. You guys play pickle, where you throw the ball back and forth and you get a guy in a pickle?
I have, yeah. We do that for practice.
Okay, well, we used to get three guys there, and you'd start standing on one of the two bases we would set up, and they'd lob the ball back and forth. And at some point, you'd take off and run to the other side, and they'd throw the ball. If a ball beat you there, you'd stop and get into a pickle, and we'd do that and keep rotating on that. But the one that I think I probably enjoyed the most of all these different games, see, we never had organized sports. We didn't have Little League. We didn't play in anything that was organized by anybody. We were just coming up with our own little games. And the one I liked the most was when there were just two of us. There were two of us playing and trying to decide what to do. We would go out, and usually it was our house, our porch. We had 3 steps going up to the door, and there was a cement walk going from the sidewalk to our steps, and they were divided into blocks of cement. And if you take the ball, usually a tennis ball or a rubber ball that wasn't real bouncy, and the guy who had the ball would throw it against the steps, so it would ricochet off the steps and go out towards the guy who's standing on the walk, and he'd have to try to catch it. So depending upon how you placed it or hit it, you'd either get a single or a double. If it bounced off the steps, went over his head, it was a home run. And we would play that for hours, by the hours. When we weren't outside playing, we read a lot. I was lucky enough to have an uncle that worked at a parking garage downtown Detroit, and the trucks that would deliver comics and newspapers and magazines to the different places always parked in that garage. And they gave him his choice of the comic books that they had all the time. And he'd bring me, maybe once a month, he'd bring me a pile of brand new comic books. Superman, Batman, the war movies were a big deal. War comics were a big deal. One was called Sergeant Slaughter, and the other one was like a G.I. Joe. And it was just stuff about the war. See, you understand, this is shortly after World War II. I was born in 1944. March 44. So I'm talking about like 1950 now, 1951, 52. So it was only maybe 6, 7 years from World War II. So World War II was very prominent in everybody's childhoods. And the games we played were Army games, where we'd be shooting Nazis and Japanese, and running around the neighborhood doing that kind of stuff. But we did lots of reading in the wintertime. I used to play with, I used to set up in the living room floor on a little carpet that we had on the floor. And I was using these things, I can't think of the name of the blocks, but they were little white blocks that clipped together like Legos. And you could build walls and things like that with them. But what I would do is I would build a wall, and then I would push these blocks towards the wall with my finger. And it would be like I was charging the wall, and they would bounce over the cart. If they fell over on their side, that was a dead one. So I'd have a whole series of these bricks that I'd be pushing. If I could get to the wall, I got to take one of the bricks off the wall. I used to play that for hours.
Sounds awesome.
God, what else did I do? When you came in our front door, there was like, it was not stone, but it was tile. It was a hard tile. And my parents didn't like this one too much, but I used to do it anytime I was babysitting my brother and sister. I would take marbles and I would toss them onto the floor, and he'd bounce, really bouncing, because this was solid tile. They boing, boing, bouncing all around. And I'd load up maybe 10, 15, 20 marbles in there, throwing them around. And one time my folks came in, and my dad almost slipped and broke his neck. As they opened the door, and all of a sudden there's all these marbles sitting right there in the entryway. But anyway, I digress. So, I mean, school was not, I don't remember a whole lot about school. I used to have to walk to school. I was also, it was maybe half a mile or so. It wasn't a big deal. And I'd walk with my buddies and go to Horace Mann Elementary School. And at one point when I was about 11 or 12, I got to be a safety patrol guy. You ever seen those white belts that go around your waist and across your chest? Okay, well, I was one of those guys. And that was a big deal, man. Because you walked around school and you have that belt tied around you. You roll it up in a ball and you let it hang for your belt buckle. I was cool, man. I was really cool. And so that was all pretty fun. And then after, in 1956, we moved. Now, this was all happening in Detroit, Michigan. And my father, as you know, Joe, he was killed in World War II in the Philippines, my birth father. And then my mother remarried, so I never really, the only father I've ever had was the man she remarried, Dominic Gambino. And so that's the guy that raised me. But the Kiczenskis all lived around the Detroit area and up into the lower part of Michigan. So, I mean, I didn't really know very many of the Kiczenskis at that time. And then we moved to California when I was 12. And I went to junior high school and high school. I got pretty good grades and stuff like that. But I didn't play any sports. I wasn't into any organized activities at all. And I entered a yo-yo contest. And I won the district. I was a district champion for Duncan Yo-Yo, okay? Well, I won a little plaque and everything was cool. Sitting at the 8th grade graduation, and kids are coming up for awards and stuff, for grades and things like that. You get recognition for different things. And one of the teachers stands up and says, "Oh, and I want to bring up little Tim Kiczenski. I want you guys to know that he is the Duncan Yo-Yo champion of the district in Orange County." And all the kids started laughing, and I was so embarrassed. So somehow they got their hands on that plaque. They made me get up there. They gave me the plaque, and I turned around. I was just red as a beet. All the kids were laughing. You know how 8th graders can be. They were roaring. "Oh, he's Duncan Yo-Yo. Oh, he's a yo-yo champ. How cool is that?" Oh. Yeah, anywho. But, okay, let's go to high school. I went to high school, and first junior high school was new to me because we just moved from Detroit, so I didn't know anybody. So I started really kind of diving into my schoolwork and homework and things. And I kind of liked getting good grades. I went to high school, and it was the same kind of thing. I went to the other end of town for high school. I didn't know anybody in high school except a couple guys from the neighborhood. So I dove into my grades there when I started as a freshman. And I didn't play any sports the beginning of my freshman year during football season. And then from that point forward, I was always in some kind of after-school sport. It would be football. My sophomore year would be football, basketball, track. It'd be football, basketball, and track my junior year. Then I didn't play football my senior year, just played basketball and track. And during this time, I went to high school, got good grades, and then went to college, and I applied to a bunch of different colleges, and I got admitted right away to Cal Poly Pomona, California State Polytechnic College. It's an engineering school. I was going to be an electronic engineer. My dad kept saying, engineering, where it's at. I had an uncle, Eddie Kiczenski. He was an engineer. So we said, hey, that's the thing to do, man. You get your college degree, and man, you can really raise your family and be set for life. Anyway, so I go to Cal Poly Pomona, my first year of engineering school, and I meet Bill Burden. I don't know if you remember that name, but I met him in one of my classes, and we got to be really good friends, and I met his older brother, Don. Well, Don Burden is the one that started the baseball team that I started playing baseball on. At this point, I'm not playing any sports. I'm just going to school. And then that summer, so it would have been the summer of '63. Yeah, I started playing baseball on Burton's team, the San Gabriel Bombers. And it was just, he put the team together, and we just had a ball. We'd play baseball every Sunday and then have a few beers afterwards. It was really cool. And at one of these games, Don asks the coach from Riverside, UCR, University of California, Riverside, to come out and pitch for us. He had played minor league baseball. And so he came out and pitched. During that game, I had a really, really good game. And he said, hey, you interested in playing a little baseball at UCR? And before this happened, before this particular game, I've been kind of thinking, I'm not so sure I like this engineering stuff. I'm not sure this is what I want to do the rest of my life. I was getting decent grades and stuff, but I wasn't really pushing any buttons. And I was thinking I should probably look into something else. I started thinking about maybe I'll be a teacher and a coach. I still wasn't thinking about dentistry yet. My dentist kept working on me. He kept telling me, you'd be a great dentist, Jim. You should think about it. I used to work at his office and pour up models and trim them and do some of that stuff. And I'd sit and talk to the patients. And he says, oh, Tim, you'd be great at this. And that was just kind of sitting in the back of my mind. I never really thought about it very seriously. And so anyway, I went out to UCI. I transferred to, I got a Bachelor of Arts in Biology. I changed my major in biology, and I lost a whole bunch of credits because none of the engineering credits would. So, I lost a lot of credits. So I showed up in '64 in the second semester in February in '64. I showed up at UCR with about maybe 18 units that would transfer from my whole first year of college. So I was a bit behind. I was a strong new freshman there, and started playing baseball. And I had a job fixing the baseball field for practice and stuff. I used to get paid $3 an hour. And I also worked in a bookstore where I met your grandmother. I had noticed her in the bookstore, and I went, ooh, this is kind of a cute girl. and nothing really came of it. She had hair down to the back of her, small of her back. She had beautiful, long black hair. And I said, man, she is really cute. And so anyway, I was kind of checking out, trying to find out who this gal was. And so I found out her name, and I started checking up on where she was, where classes were. Things were kind of listed that way. So I'd kind of hang around and wait, and kind of run into her. And her girlfriend introduced me to her, and I said, okay. And we kind of met that way. And the one story I was going to, actually, we met on the baseball diamond. I was doing the work before practice, and then I'd get in the batting cage, and with another guy that was working too then, and we'd set up the pitching machine, and we'd, fire balls into the pitching machine and just hit them back out of the net. We'd try to hit them to left field, try to hit them back out the net and stuff. They'd go pick them up and do it some more. Well, during one of those sessions, this is before actual baseball practice. I was out earlier I'd taken care of the field already. And he comes out, and Cheryl, my wife, comes out with her girlfriend, Peggy. Peggy brings Cheryl out to meet me. And she wanted to take a picture. And it was the excuse was Peggy, her girlfriend, is taking pictures for the annual. And she wanted a picture of some of the baseball players. So have you seen that black and white picture that I showed you? Oh, did I ever show you? I've got a black and white picture of the moment I met your grandmother. and we're looking stupid, and we're sitting with our hats cocked funny on our heads, and we're leaning on our bats, just looking at, posing in front of the batting cage. That was the moment that I officially met your grandmother. And also, well, after that happened, I knew who she was and stuff, and I had told you about this before. I was going out to her car. I knew she had a little tiny red sports car, and I was going to leave a note on her windshield. And so I had this cute little note that was clever and all that kind of stuff, and I was going to leave it on her car while she was in class. And so I walk out to the car, and I find it, and underneath the windshield wiper on the windshield is a note from another guy. So I fixed him. I probably took his note off, put my note there, and then I turned around and married her.
Did you ever find out who the guy was that put the note
Nope.
there? Never.
No, he was a political science major. He's a geek.
Wow.
He was one of the because Mimi was a political science major in college, which is about as far away as my biology major you could get. And I was also involved with a little bit of the clubs on campus. I was the president of the varsity club for 2 years. It's called the Big C Society. And frankly, nobody else wanted the job. So you try to have elections, nobody wanted to do it. So I ran that club. We ran blood drives for Vietnam, and we did a lot of little things. I remember one thing that I did at one of the football games that it was fun at the time, but it didn't go over so good with the coaches and stuff. We had a decent football team. They weren't the greatest. And we didn't really have a conference. We just played different games, different of the other small schools around town, around the area. And I don't know how I got this idea or where it came from, but I got little 2x4s, and I cut them, and I had them made about 6 inches long. Okay, and then I got bushel baskets of them, and I passed them out at the football game. And we would whack them together in the beat, bum, 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 let's go. Those kind of cheers. But we're smashing these blocks together. And it was grand. It sounded great until the people in the stands who'd been drinking a little bit start, and I raised my hand. Well, I am Coach Lindeberg. And I got in a little bit of trouble for that. But that's neither here nor there. But anyway, one thing led to another from college. And I just started figuring teaching and coaching wasn't going to be the job. I don't think this is going to be a good idea for me. Even though I loved coaching, after I graduated in '67 and I started dental school in '68, so the year between '67 and '68, I coached the freshman baseball team at UCR, and that was fun, and I really did enjoy coaching. I've always loved coaching, and we had a lot of fun with that. And then we applied to dental school, got into Loyola. And funny stories about dental school. Oh my God, I could talk for 25 hours about that. I mean, there were just so many strange things that we had to do that were so foreign to me. I didn't know a thing about dentistry when I went to dental school, and I met all sorts of weird people at the Loyola Dental School. They opened up the doors for people to have work done on them because we needed people to work on. Okay. Mm-hmm. So anybody could come to the school, and you pay a $5 registration fee, and you got all this dental work for free. But it was done by students.
Good deal. I'd do that.
Well, it was kind of a good deal, but you got to understand, we're doing the work. We're not experienced. We're learning on all these poor people that would come through the clinic. But that's how we got our experience. And one funny story. I remember we used to have, freshman year, we had anatomy lab, full body anatomy lab. And we had 2 bodies on each table. And there was a rotating pan that they laid in. So the medical school worked on one of the bodies. They worked on the whole body. We worked on the head and the neck. And one of the times we had gone out to lunch, and all day Thursday, we just worked in this formaldehyde-laden anatomy lab with these bodies for the whole morning and afternoon. So it got real, hard on you. I mean, it was a lot of hours spent doing that. But came back from lunch one day, and I walked in, and we were just in a goofy mood. You know how you get like that sometimes? We're just in a
Yeah.
goofy mood. We were really tired from working in the morning, and we walked in there, and there's some guy in a lab coat, like an instructor, but I didn't recognize who he was. And he was working over the body, showing stuff to different kids that were around the table. And I walked over there, and I kind of nudged him aside, and I started doing a little spiel. Well, this is the Gina fornified sconce, and it's attached to the pars spinoris. And if you follow this one through, sometimes if you wiggle your toe, your eyelid will open. And everybody's laughing, but they're laughing very nervously. Do you know who the guy was that I pushed aside?
Who?
He was the author of our anatomy book.
That he appreciated that interruption.
Yeah, he was probably the most significant instructor in all of dentistry, period. And I pushed him aside and started. Oh gosh, that was pretty embarrassing. But now dentistry itself, I remember this one guy. I had made a very nice full denture for him. Guy had no teeth, so I made real beautiful teeth, a nice smile and everything. And I was really pretty proud of this piece of work. And dentures wouldn't always fit. Everybody's mouth is different, and it's hard sometimes to get them to really fit. And I remember one time this guy came back in the office after I had done this absolutely beautiful denture that I thought was beautiful, and he's going, "Doc, I'm not happy with this denture." And now, unfortunately, I can't show you because we're not on a video. I can't show you what he did, but if you can imagine this, he would open his mouth wide and pull his lips down and make an O just as hard as he could. He says, "When I do this, Doc," and he'd make this really stupid face and push like crazy with his lips, and the denture would fall down. And I couldn't help myself. I started laughing at him. I mean, he got so mad at me, I thought he was going to hit me. He looked so stupid, and it looked so funny when he did that. I just went, oh my God, I cannot believe this is happening to me. But anyway, it was dentistry. I've loved dentistry. I did it for 39 years afterwards. And I think what I liked best of dentistry is that I could really make a difference for people with their lives and stuff and how they looked. And it was really fun to be able to design a smile and give somebody some gorgeous teeth and a gorgeous smile that they'd never had in their whole life. And, that was really fun. And that was very satisfying to me, in dentistry. What else was I going to say? That's about it, guys. I mean, any more weird experiences in dentistry? I can't think of them right this moment. But boy, I sure had a bunch of weird people come through my office at different times. Had a lot of great people too, and I always had good employees too. And we just had a pretty good time most of the time.
So,
well,
I heard you say a little earlier that you had 3 or 4 really core buddies. I remember from talking to my grandpa that he has these prank stories where he and his buddies just did something stupid and they just somehow got away with it. Do you have any stories like that where you just did some
I never in my life did anything stupid. What's wrong with you guys? You think I would do something stupid?
Oh, no.
How can I count the ways? No, I don't know. I don't even think. My good buddies Burton, Bill Burton and Ed Fetting were my 2 best friends out there, and they're still my best friends now. Those are the people that we travel with every December, Joe. Those
the ones
2.
that came to our house.
The ones that came to your house. So one was Bill Burton, one was Ed Fetting, and these are guys that I met right after I graduated from high school. So they've been my friends for 70 years or a long time. And we always did a bunch of goofy things. Oh, I got one for you. One afternoon, now was I married? Yeah, I think I was married to Mimi. Or maybe I wasn't. Yes, I was. I was back there doing something, but trying to get my California dental license. And I was at the beach with Ed Fetting. And we were sitting around and just goofing off. And we've been sailing he had a little catamaran. You know what a catamaran is?
Isn't it one of those boats with 2 big, I don't know how to explain
Yes.
it, but on either
Yes.
side? Yeah.
There's a canvas spread across the 2 floats and the mast up in the middle. We were sailing this thing around just off the beach. We drug it down at the beach. He lived on the beach. And we put it in the ocean. and we're sailing it around, and we were on the beach eating and drinking and having a good time, just having fun. And Ed said, Tim, let's sail this thing to Catalina Island. And now Catalina Island is 26 miles from the coast of California.
Oh.
Okay. Yeah. He says,
That's a
Tim.
little far away.
Yeah. He says, Tim, let's sail this thing to Catalina. I said, okay, let's go. So we now imagine this, we push this thing out into the ocean, and we get it going, and we're sailing back and forth trying to work our way out. There's a big giant rock jetty. There's a jetty that goes back into one of the nice bays in there where all the really ritzy big expensive boats are, and there was 2 piles of boulders that form the channel that you would enter from the ocean side, and you'd come through on your boat and get back into the back bay. Well, we were on one side of that. The channel was to the left of us, and the boulders, it went out quite a ways. So we're sailing around and so on and so forth, and we're doing something called flying the hull, where you both get on one side and you pick the other hull clean up off the water. We're sitting on the bottom one, and we've got this thing tipped up, and so we capsize it. We go completely over, and it took us a while to get it upright again. Off we go again, trying to sail it again, and we break one of the rudders.
Oh no.
So we're down, now we're quite a ways out by now, but that doesn't dissuade us. We decide to keep sailing because we've still got one rudder. So we're flying back and forth. Now we're probably, I don't know, maybe 50 yards off the beach, 70 yards away from the beach itself. And we break the other rudder.
Oh no.
So now we're sitting on this boat with waves. Waves are coming in, swells are coming in, and it's slowly but surely pushing us into this rock jetty that goes out for about 100 yards. And there's huge boulders here. So we're drifting towards these boulders, and we're going to have to figure out, we can't get out and swim with this thing. We don't want to ruin it's going to crash on these rocks. And I can remember like it was yesterday, standing on one of those, pylons on the canvas there, trying to figure out how I was going to time my jump. So just before the swell comes up and throws the boat on the rocks, I can jump off the boat. Okay? Well, just about that time, so we're probably 10 yards away from the rocks this time, this big monster powerboat comes out around the corner. I mean, it was a monster. These big speedboats that you see racing across, in some of these ocean races that they have. And he sees us in trouble, and he just runs over real quick, throws us a rope, and pulls us away from that and gave us a little nudge. And so we were able to get the boat back to the beach. That's pretty wild. That was pretty darn wild, and pretty stupid for us to have done.
What did your parents think when you got back and had to explain the story?
Oh no, that's nothing to do with parents. I was much older than high school or anything like that. This is maybe just after college, maybe just the beginning of dental school. We were just back in California visiting our friends and stuff, and I was down at the beach visiting Ed. So we weren't dumb, stupid kids. We were probably 24, 25. We're still dumb, stupid kids, I guess. I don't know, but I mean, that was pretty dumb to do that, but especially after we broke the first rudder. But yeah, that's pretty wild. We used to also scuba dive in the ocean. That was fun. That was just, nothing really crazy or awful, but you had to do an ocean checkout with scuba gear, and they took us out on a boat, and we're on these big kelp beds. Do you know what kelp is? Yeah. It's a plant that comes up from the bottom and grows up, and it has leaves sort of, and they're big leaves, and they float on the water. You usually can't see them much, but anyway, we were in this kelp bed, and we used to dive in the kelp bed, and that was fun. We'd go back to the boat, load up, we'd get more air. You'd run out of your tank, and we went down as far as 80 feet, 80, 90 feet, 100 feet. And you use your air up real fast when you go down that deep.
Yeah.
But it was pretty wild. And I remember there was it was like a drop off, almost like a cliff, and it went from being maybe 30, 40 feet to then it'd go off this little ledge, and it would go down to about like I'd say about 100 feet. And And I remember we're just kind of exploring around, and there was these little holes in the side of this, and I looked, all of a sudden, a moray eel came flying out of that thing and went right past my nose, right past my face. Do you know what a moray eel is?
Yeah, I do. These things are creepy. They look like something out of my nightmares.
Oh, that sucker came flying out of that hole and blew past the side of my face. I went, holy smoke.
I bet that was shocking.
Oh, it was pretty scary. That was pretty stupid, too. I mean, what were we doing looking at these holes like that? But anyway. Then I had my dive knife strapped to my ankle. I felt so cool. Like, boy, I can face anything with this dive. I couldn't even reach my dive knife. It happened so fast. But anyway.
It's getting really late in Max's. So we're
I'm
gonna have to
running
get to the cheesy questions.
what are the cheesy questions? Go ahead.
What would you say is the most important life lesson you've had to learn through your lifetime?
Oh, give me a break. Why didn't you give me this like a week ago when you first said about this life lesson?
Just off the top of your head, first thing that comes to mind.
Don't look in holes.
that I've learned.
One thing you wish you
my
knew
life,
when you were
because
young.
my life, what have I learned? Well, I'll tell you one thing for sure. It's wonderful to have really, really good close friends that stay with you for your whole life. That's a big deal. Having really good friends. What else? I don't know what I learned. I've always been. I've always treated people right. I've been nice to people. I've tried as hard as I could in my dentistry to do the best job I possibly could. And I still see, I sold my practice about 2009, and I still run into these people that I used to treat, and they see me, Dr. Kiczenski, how you doing? I don't know. I can't remember their name for anything. I can recognize their faces, but I just, good to see you. How you doing?
Always bluff your way out of it.
Yeah, well, but that's what it's all about. And I always treated people as well as I could. I always believed, here's a little gem. I've always believed that you really should treat other people the way you would like yourself to be treated in all situations that you run into. And that was always kind of my guideline. Would I like this done to me? How would I react to this? And I've kind of lived by that my whole life, too. Plus, we raised a heck of a son that had some good grandkids, too.
I don't know how great those grandkids are. I'd have to disagree on that one.
All right, give me some more cheesy questions. Let's go.
All right, just one more.
Okay.
If you could give one piece of advice to the kids in the younger generation that you just wish you knew at a younger age, what would that be?
Oh, brother. That's another good one. Where'd you guys get these questions from? I just think, and this is sometimes a really hard thing to do, is to really try to figure out what you really want to do with your life. And I know it's hard to really think about that, but if you just put as much thought in your mind as you can about that when you're doing things, if you spot something or you come across something that really strikes your fancy, I think you really should pursue it and go for it. And that's what I enjoyed about college so much. I mean, I just thought I was going to be an engineer, but it turns out I don't think I want to be an engineer. And, people suggest things to you, and you see people around you that you admire, and you think, that'd be kind of nice to do that, or to do this, and to do those things. But you got to find something that strikes your fancy, and it's not always easy to do that. Yeah. Sometimes it does. Sometimes it doesn't happen right away, and the advice is to just keep an open mind and keep looking for those things and pursue things that you think are the best things to do, and then you pursue them, and they might work out that they're not the best things to do. Like with me going into engineering, that really wasn't the thing I should have done. Yet that was the first path that I took. And it's just not always one path that you think about and you set it up and you do that for the rest of your life. It just doesn't usually work that way, but you got to keep an open mind about it and to look at things and pursue them as best you can until you think you found all the information you could about them. And then you can make a decision. I don't know. How's that sound?
That's awesome. That's good advice. Okay. Unfortunately, we are going to have to start wrapping this up here. Thank you so much for talking with us. It was really awesome hearing a lot about your life experiences.
This was fun. Thanks for including me. Thanks for choosing me.
Yeah.
Of course.
Okay. Go get them, guys. Let me know how all this works out.
All right.
We'll be in touch. All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Good night.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Make sure you guys are looking out for our next episode of Grandpa Stories, where we will be interviewing Max's grandpa, a naval veteran with a large sports background. It's sure to be an interesting one.
See you guys next time on Grandpa Stories.